Welcome to Pallilo Points. I'm Brandon Stranger, Sportsman Houston. He is Charlie Pallilo of ESPN 97.5, 92.5. And if you have not, please hit subscribe on this channel. We really do appreciate it. Charlie, thanks for joining me this morning. The Texans raised a lot of fans' eyebrows, if not their blood pressure, last week, drafting quarterback Davis Mills out of Stanford, along with two other offensive players in their first three draft picks. In fact, our own Lance Zierlein thinks that Caserio had the worst draft of all the AFC South teams. So how surprised were you that the Texans not only drafted a quarterback with that third round pick, but that they also didn't meaningfully improve one of the worst defenses in the league?
I suppose at this point, what should surprise? Caserio has to be given a fair and reasonably long runaway. For all the personnel moves he made in the offseason, their roster is pretty much a blank canvas. It's bad. All these short-term and temp players, not even a full list of young players, a bunch of guys 28 years old who will probably be here just 1 year. So when you don't pick in the first round or the second round, the whole Deshaun mess is all brewing, and you take a quarterback who's had two major knee injuries and started all of 11 games as a collegiate, as Davis Mills did at Stanford, but he did play the last 5 last season. It really is, you just throw your hands up and say, what next? How low can they go? But I think Caserio is treating this almost as if he's building up an expansion team, that you have a bunch of bodies on your roster, but you're probably counting on very few of those to be here 2-3 years when you hope to be extricating yourself from the nether reaches, the dregs of the NFL. So is the door nailed shut on Deshaun Watson? It would seem so. Would they have preferred Kellen Mond? They'd never admit that. Were it the case, the Aggie taking one spot prior to the Texans going with Davis Mills. But a quarterback with 2 knee operations behind an offensive line whose quarterback was a Pro Bowler in large part because of his ability to run around and buy time and create, do things himself. I'd bet the under on Davis Mills and Texans greatness. Of course, we'd all bet the under on Texans greatness, if not for perpetuity. At least there's future out on the horizon as far as we can see.
Sure. And it's fair to say, too, that Deshaun Watson has 2 major knee injuries behind him as well. So you're exactly right. We have to be very, very fair and measured when we're talking about Nick Caserio, because he inherited an absolute mess. So my question is this. Let's talk about what's the best case scenario here. I think we know what the worst case scenario is, but you can give us that, too. But what's the best case scenario for this pick?
That he becomes a good, solid starting quarterback. Kirk Cousins was a 4th rounder taken by Washington in the same draft in which Robert Griffin III was the super high draft choice, Heisman Trophy winner out of Baylor. And Griffin tore it up as a rookie, and then he tore up a knee and an ankle, and Kirk Cousins wound up the guy. For Mills to become a star, Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. We all know Tom Brady, number 199, a 6th round pick. But when you get that kind of lightning in a bottle, that's why it's lightning in a bottle. Are the Texans in the quarterback market when the 2022 draft rolls around? If that is the case, and we're talking about Spencer Rattler or Sam Howell, well, then the waste of Mills will have been just a colossal waste of time as Nick Caserio's first draft choice running the Houston Texans. So if Mills is not playing by midway through his rookie season, unless the Texans are a spectacular surprise, but let's say they're 2-6, there's no reason to be playing Tyrod Taylor at that point. Learn about Mills and decide, okay, that was our flyer we took, but if we have the 2nd or 3rd pick in the draft and we really like one of these quarterbacks, that's where you're going. It just feels like a wheel spinning pick. I just don't like the upside of an immobile quarterback with a history of knee problems, certainly not joining this Texans roster.
One of the interesting things about the Texans is how they've always seemed to find what I would call buoyancy within AFC South. Even when they've bottomed out to their infamous 2-win seasons, they've always found a way to quickly jump back towards the top of the division. And of course, that does require help from the other teams. Jacksonville has always been a team that's kind of been the opposite of that. They've always found their way back to the bottom of the division. But the experts seem to love what the Jags did here. So are the Texans the clear-cut favorites now to be the worst team in the AFC South, or have we moved well beyond that and we're talking about whether they're the worst team in the league?
I think they're leasing with a very strong option to buy on the basement. Jacksonville, if the Jaguars did nothing but draft Trevor Lawrence and hire Urban Meyer. Just the newness, the wow factor of those two guys. Lawrence has been the next coming for 2-3 years now. And Meyer's track record of success collegiately, entirely different beast. But I think they would be considered better than the Texans before what they did with multiple other draft picks in the first and second round, and what they have coming forward a year from now, what they aggressively did in free agency, adding some young talent, whereas the Texans largely went with place fillers. The Texans going into the season, maybe Detroit, for those who don't think anything of Jared Goff. The Texans are certainly considered one of the worst, if not the worst team in the NFL. The over-under win totals, the overall odds on winning the division, and they've earned that distinction.